Hey BookTube, my name is the Book Mage, welcome back to my channel, and to what is for me a very exciting video. A video full of hope and optimism. Yes, today I'm going to be discussing the books that I'm actually looking forward to. So these are books that have not yet been released but which have been announced. They are coming, they are on the horizon, and the which I know I am genuinely very excited to get, to pick up, to read. And just to clarify, I have done videos in the past where I have talked about new releases or upcoming releases that I am interested in or excited for, but this is so much more specific. There are plenty of books coming out that I have on my radar and that I think I will get that when it comes out. These are just the books that I would say I am dying to read. Not just a passing interest, not just like I'll get it and see. I need these books, I want these books, I'm so excited for these books. It's a much smaller number. If I don't mention any books on here that you would expect to be on here, just personal taste, or in fact that, you know, if there are books coming out and I'm not caught up on that series, obviously they won't be included. And having said that, there are only 4 books on this whole list. They're going to be in like no particular order. So without any further ado, let's get on to the upcoming releases that I am just, I'm so excited for. So the first book that I absolutely cannot wait to get like my grubby little magpie hands on is The Cuckoo by Leo Carew. This is the 3rd book in the, I think it's called the Under the Northern Sky series. This series completely took me by surprise. I bought The Wolf, I think it was kind of a cover buy and it was really cheap to buy the hardback. It's a nice looking book. It just completely took me by surprise. I did not expect to have such like a visceral love for this book when I read it. I don't know, and I don't think I talk about it enough on my channel. So this series is set in a world that's very much like medieval Britain, but as though other races of humanoid had survived and like evolved alongside humans. So humans are not the only intelligent man-like race out there. The main other race is this, the people called the Anakim, and they live in the north above everything that's like modern day Leeds. In a way they're kind of like a wilder folk, but at the same time they have this very unique society. They're like a warrior like people. I don't know, there's just like a lot of uniqueness in the way that their culture is written, and I think the author is, he's like a historical anthropologist or something like that, and it shows with like the level of like depth and care and realism in this world. And the first book starts out with a battle between the Southerners, who are humans, and the Northern army of the Anakim, and there's this big clash which ends with Roper, the son of the current leader, the Black Lord. He ends up being thrust into the position of the Black Lord and having to sort of figure out without any sort of like preparation how he's now going to rule his people and like what he can do with this encroaching war from the Southerners. And it's a lot of politicking, it's a lot of like winning people over and like a lot of him coming into his position, but at the same time, if you love battle sequences, and I mean like long extended descriptive realistic battle sequences, please give it a shot. It's so underrated. These books have such like they have so few like ratings and things on like Goodreads. It's insane. I don't know how this book isn't like it's mind-blowingly good. It's so good. The second book, when I read it, I absolutely loved that as well. I just slipped right back into the world and the characters, and book 2, I think it may have even been better than book 1. It was just such a good continuation. It was such a fantastic sequel. And this is the 3rd book. I don't know if it's going to be the last book. I have a feeling it might be. Honestly, I could read 1,000 installments of this series, but I'm so excited to know where it's going, because you don't just follow Roper, you follow the Southerners as well, and you follow like occasionally different characters from both sides. I have so many questions, there's so much going on, there's been so many reveals, there's been so many questionable choices that you have to make in the moment and that you know you're going to come to regret later, but you have no choice in the moment. And I want to know, everything is spiraling and snowballing, and I just need to know what's going to happen at the end. I'm so into this series. I love this series. It's one of those where even when I was like sort of struggling to read during the pandemic, I read the 2nd book so fast. I think I have a vlog where I'm reading it and I just fly through it. Yeah, 10 out of 10. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this book. It comes out fairly soon. It comes out this year. I feel like I'm not ready, but also like I'm so ready. Okay, yeah. So next book. If you thought The Cuckoo was part of an underrated series, this next one This is gonna be niche, but like I said, this is my list, and it's for me. And the next book that I'm so excited for, I don't even think it has a cover yet, or a release date, but that book is The Cure for Living by Nicholas Lietzow. In my last video, I did a wrap-up, and in it I talked about a book called Dreams of the Dying, and do you know, I bought it on a whim. It was a cover buy. The cover kind of gave me Morrowind vibes. I loved it. I loved this book so much. It was such a surprise. I don't even know how to describe how excited I was to learn that there definitely would be a second book in this series. Tone-wise, vibe-wise, it's everything I want in a book. And it's weird because like it doesn't really have much to do with like magic or mages, and to my knowledge there are no dragons and there are absolutely no vampires, which are the three things that I tend to love in books. But tone-wise, oh my god, this just hit so perfect for me. The vibes were immaculate. This book is very much based on vibes, and my enjoyment of it, just chef's kiss. I loved the first book in this series. It feels like it might be quite episodic because you meet the main character, a point in his life where there's so much that's happened already, and if you've played like the little games that the author has made that sort of like give you some more backstory, you'll go into this knowing much more than I did. I feel like I don't know where the next book will lead. I'm assuming it's going to be a direct sequel and it will continue to follow his journey, but oh my god. So much happened in that book. So much of the first book was to do with like trauma and like, I don't know, I don't necessarily want to say healing, but just a lot of like coming to terms with things. But I feel like the book would have also given the main character so much more trauma to deal with. So like, in terms of character arcs, I don't know where we are. All I can say is, I loved the first book. It basically follows like an ex-mercenary who gets like this invitation to come out to this like, it's like an archipelago, it's like a Polynesian inspired fantasy, and he goes out there to this place that's like ruled over by these people that are so rich and powerful and wealthy. They're like almost like demigods in the way that they're viewed by society, and one of them has a task for him. That's just kind of where he ends up, and it's a really dangerous, tense time. There's a lot to do with like the society and the different cultures and the clashes, and it's weird because I don't think book 2 is going to be set anywhere in this land. It's just full of very realistic, kind of morally grey characters, and all I can say is I loved it. I loved it. It's hard to talk about because I feel like even though this is going to follow the character on like the next step of his journey, it's not going to have anything to do with any part of the environment or the events of or any of the characters of the book that I loved. So I don't know, but I'm just so excited to see where this goes. This is such a me one. This book is on this list for me. It's a very little known self-published series, but I'm so into it and I so want to support this author, and like I wish that I liked playing video games on a PC, because if that were the case I would play the mods that are set in this world and I would like know more about the character. I might have to watch like an official playthrough or something at some point just to eke some more out of this world because I'm so into it. But yeah, this one's very much for me. It's all purely based on vibes. I just had such a blast reading the first book. I loved it. I had so much fun. It was also slightly devastating at parts, but like I was reading this like in a holiday home overlooking like the sea and beaches and cliffs, so like I recovered fast, but still I feel like if I like it this much it totally has the potential to be like somebody else's favourites as well, so like do with that info what you will. Okay, the third book on my list, this is one where I didn't even know if this author would ever write anything again, and I've only ever read one thing by them. So the book I'm looking forward to is Small Angels by Lauren Owen. The reason I'm looking forward to this, because I know very little about it, but it is because I read her first and only other book called The Quick, and I picked this up because it was a vampire novel and it looked very gothic. This is just a list of books that just blindsided me out of nowhere, because this book, The Quick, was so good. Oh my god, I think I gave that like a high 4 stars as well. I really liked that book. It was her debut, and yet it read as though it was like, if you told me, oh yeah, this is a piece of famous classical literature, I would just believe you. It has that vibe about it. Again, we're back on the vibes. I should say what it's about. So The Quick was like about, there's a brother and sister who live in Yorkshire, again represent also from Yorkshire, and the brother goes off to London to sort of like study, and he wants to become like a writer, or I think it's a poet specifically, and he ends up like rooming with like a wealthy aristocrat, and then all of a sudden his sister stops getting letters from him, she stops hearing from him, and she then has to go off to London to like figure out where her brother is, what has happened. And it is a vampire novel, but the word vampire is used I think once or twice throughout the whole book, and it's both extremely classic vampires, but yet they feel entirely different from any other vampire I've ever read. The book feels like Dickensian at the same time, but it's so hard to explain. But it was fantastic, and I loved every second of it, and I couldn't believe, like, first of all, that was somebody's debut, but that it genuinely felt like a piece of classical literature. She'd never published anything else before or since, and I was starting to think in my head, I was like, is that it? Is she just like a one and done? She's just like, I'm gonna publish this, it's like this thing that I've written, and that's it. And then like, she's out, see you later, peace. She's coming back for a second book, and I'm so excited. If it's anything like The Quick. The synopsis is also quite vague. It basically mentions that there's a woman she's gone to this church to be married, and she has like this weird feeling that like there's something going on, there's something like creeping in the woods, and that's basically all it says. It just gives us like this idea of like this little, I don't know, village in the middle of nowhere, like these gothic overtones, like this creeping potential horror. I don't really know. It says that it mixes like gothic and like folklore, although the Waterstones description did say that this is Lauren Owen's debut, which I beg to differ because they stock her other book. I'm ready for it. It's not so much the plot of this book, and again, it's not in a series unlike the others. This is so specifically, I loved what this author did the first time, and I didn't know that I would ever be able to read anything from her again. Like, I went looking several times, and now that she's writing something else, I'm just so eager to know what it is. I'm so interested to see where this goes. I hope it has that same sort of vibe that her writing had. Again, I feel like I might be reading like classical literature. She just has that vibe about her writing, and I just want to know what it is. Okay, and the last book on my list is one that, when I knew I was going to film this video, I did not know this existed. I do not believe it had been announced. And then when I saw it because I browse a lot for like upcoming fantasy, when I saw it I thought, oh, I know this author. And then when I clicked on it, and it turned out to be a sequel, the sequel that we didn't know we'd ever get. The last book, you can probably tell what it's going to be. The last book that I'm so excited for, that I need, is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is going to be a sequel to The Priory of the Orange Tree, and every fibre of my being is here for this. The way that Samantha Shannon wrote The Priory of the Orange Tree, again, a little bit like Lauren Owen, I thought it was so masterful. I loved the way she wrote, I loved the tone, I loved specifically the words on the page, the voice she chose to write with. That said, I did still love the story. It had dragons, and it had magic. Mostly dragons though, and I love dragons. Yeah, I mean, I loved that book so much. I thought the world was so vivid, and like, it was just such an enjoyable read. And one of the first things that I was like doing on BookTube when I first started out, that was, Priory of the Orange Tree was one of 2 books that like, I did not have a job at the time, and I had like no money. I had like £12 in my bank or something, and I still got myself a copy of The Priory of the Orange Tree and still went to see Samantha Shannon talk and like get it signed by her. I have a whole vlog about that, but like at the time it was like, that was a ridiculously expensive purchase for me. Yeah, and it did not disappoint. Like it was worth every penny. I got a job like right after that, so like it's fine. I'm still employed, by the way, like it's fine. But yeah, I have fond memories of like reading the book and like that whole period of like starting out with BookTube and whatnot. So again, I feel like I need to tell you, just in case you don't know, you probably do, but just in case, what book 1 is about. So The Priory of the Orange Tree, she's a complicated one. To boil it down, you've kind of got the East and the West, and the East reveres dragons. They have dragon riders, they have like a whole dragon rider training school sort of thing. So that's one thing going on. And then in the West, you have a world where dragons they're not intelligent, you can't really communicate with them, they're just kind of like monstrous beasts. They're entirely different to like the good dragons of the East. and there is a queen. Her bloodline, it's weird, she's like reborn again and again and again, and every queen in the line has the same name and looks the same, and they all share the same blood, and her bloodline is the only one that can keep this world-ending dragon slumbering like at the bottom of the sea. That is why she's the queen, like that is why her bloodline rules over like her kingdom. There are other kingdoms as well, but yeah, her bloodline is the one that like keeps this incredibly powerful, purely evil dragon in like a state of stasis. And there's been some signs that suggest that despite this, said dragon might actually be waking up, and that calls a lot of things into question. And at the same time, there's like a girl that's come from across the sea who's like, oh, I don't really know how much I want to say about that, but basically there are a lot of different factions that are sort of like all coming together on either like one side of how to deal with things or another, even though like for most the goal is kind of the same. You follow like a whole host of characters. It's so much more complicated than that, and it's so much more well done than I'm making it sound. It is fantastic. It is high fantasy, but it feels a lot like historical fantasy. There are a lot of like heavy historical influences, and it just makes the text feel so rich. The world feels so like precise. It feels like the world could run like clockwork, and I could ask any question about like what's going on and there would be an answer for it. And yeah, I love the world and I love the writing on the page. And I know when it first came out, like at the Author Talks, people were asking like, is there going to be a sequel? And she said like there could be, in that there's more story in this world and like there's definitely more to explore in this world, but that at that time it was not planned. She wasn't actively writing anything, at least that's what she said, and that yeah, it was just kind of left up in the air. It was like, yeah, there could one day maybe be a sequel, but it's not planned, it's not on the cards, we're not like actively doing it, don't expect anything. So I went off for a couple of years not expecting anything. Well, now I get to expect this, the sequel. I'm so ready, I'm so ready. Yeah, it's shocking that I haven't read anything else by Samantha Shannon yet, but I feel like this is just so much more vibe, like my vibe, than anything else that she's written. So I'm so excited. She's a fantastic author, and I need this. I need it so much. Oh my god, there's gonna be so many dragons. I'm so hype. I'm so excited. Yes, so 4 books, a lot of ranting from me, but 4 books that I am so excited to read. I cannot believe that I don't know whether all of them are coming out this year. The Cuckoo is, and Small Angels definitely is. Either way, I have at least 4 books to look forward to, which should mean that, at least as far as my booktube channel is concerned, I'm going to read at least 4 more books. Yeah, I feel like, as someone who has not been reading so much lately, at least these books I know that I will definitely read. So I think that's about it for this video. I feel like I've ranted enough, but a gushy kind of rant, a good kind of rant. So yeah, with that said, let me know, are any of you looking forward to any of the books that are on my list? I feel like a lot of people are looking forward to the last one, A Day, a Fallen Night, but the other 3 I feel like are quite niche. I don't know anybody else who's looking forward to any of these books other than me. I wish more people would look forward to them, because they're just so But yes, I'm praying these books are everything that I want them to be. It takes a lot for my brain to allow me to feel like excited for anything. So the fact that these books, like, I'm so hyped for them, it's just, I can barely contain myself for this video. So I think that's it from me. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below if there are any books not listed here that you guys are looking forward to. But if you are just by chance looking forward to one of the books that are on this list, oh my god, tell me. Yeah, so I'm gonna go and restrain myself. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this, found it useful, found it entertaining, found it informative. Maybe there's a book on this list, either one that's coming out soon or another that I mentioned that you're maybe now going to go and get excited about. Best possible outcome. Otherwise, I think that's about it from me, but maybe I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!